Joining me now is Shadow Cabinet Minister Paul Fletcher. Paul, thanks so much for your time. We always have fights in Parliament, you'd expect that, but this is a time where you certainly would have a lot of sympathy for Mark Dreyfus.
Absolutely. Very, very sad news for Mark. I certainly want to express my condolences to him and his family. You know, I know from personal experience how demanding being a Cabinet Minister is, and it's obviously been a very difficult time for him juggling his responsibilities with supporting his wife. This has been an illness that's been going for some time. So I certainly do want to express my condolences and sympathies to Mark and his family.
Well, thank you for that. Let's talk about Israel and Gaza now. We heard Anthony Albanese there say that Israel has a right to defend itself, but how it defends itself matters. Do you disagree with anything in that statement?
Well, Israel absolutely has a right to defend itself. And if you look at the way that Israel has been seeking to conduct itself, in terms of providing advance warning to civilians in Gaza, for example, of its intended movements, that is consistent with the values of Israel, which is a multi-party democracy. And this is, in many ways, a clash of values. Gaza, unfortunately, is under the control of brutal terrorist thugs, Hamas, who are known for their complete indifference, certainly to the human life and the lives of Israeli civilians, as we tragically saw on October the 7th with that horrific attack. But they're also known for their indifference to the lives of Palestinian civilians. They're notorious for using civilians as human shields. They're notorious for placing military facilities in the middle of densely populated civilian areas. And of course, they are holding more than 200 Israelis captive within Gaza. So a lot of the commentary here, I think, overlooks the reality that if Hamas cared much about the lives of Palestinian civilians, there is plenty they could do right now to greatly increase the safety of Palestinian civilians. A very good place to start would be releasing the more than 200 Israelis who are held captive. Let us hope they are all still alive, but of course we don't know that.
No, we don't know, and the IDF doesn't know that either. I spoke to Jonathan Conriquez yesterday and he confirmed as much. The stated aim of Israel at the moment is to wipe out Hamas. But don't we need to have a realistic conversation about whether that is actually possible? Should we not learn from history here? You wipe out one terrorist organisation and another springs up. Same motives, different name perhaps.
Well, let's be clear. The way that Hamas conducts itself is an affront to fundamental values of humanity,
no one disagrees
of
with
decency.
That. But can they be wiped out?
But I make the point that they are operating in exactly the same mode as ISIS and other terrorist organisations, and there was a widespread consensus about the need to combat and take strong measures to combat ISIS, and a similar imperative is here. And let's not forget that the disgraceful Iranian regime is very closely involved in supporting Hamas. We've seen the colour and character of that regime in the appalling oppression of Iranian people, particularly Iranian women. I know from talking to my own Iranian Australian constituents that they are fearful because of the operation of agents of the Iranian regime in Australia. This is a thuggish, autocratic mindset that is demonstrated by the regime in Iran, which is demonstrated by Hamas, and this is essentially a battle over values, a conflict of values.
But you say mindset, this is a battle against a mindset, so it's more than just Hamas. And how do you wipe out such a mindset? I mean, we can't approach this with naivety, can we?
Look, I'm not going to presume to give military or strategic advice to the government of Israel or to the IDF.
No.
What I will say though is that it is very important that a liberal democracy like Australia expresses strong support for another liberal democracy in a time when it is under physical attack and large numbers of its civilians have been killed, others have been taken hostage, but it's also an attack on the values that underpin liberal democracies.
Sure. And I think our government has done that. Would you agree?
The joint statement, the joint motion that was agreed to by all parties except disgracefully the Greens in the Parliament a couple of weeks ago, condemned Hamas and recognised Israel's right to self-defence, and that was appropriate.
Okay, and former Prime Ministers too?
Indeed.
Yeah. Okay, where do you see this going? Because we've just spoken to so many people on this program. The IDF know this just as much. International war criminal experts. There's a PR battle as well as a battle on the ground. If Israel starts losing that, which if you look at history, it starts to lose hearts and minds as these battles go on. What would your view be? Is there a line if Israel oversteps that Australia, you would not support?
The point I would make is that a democratically elected government in Israel is wrestling with these very issues, and they are, of course, making ethical judgments as well as military and strategic and public safety judgments on a daily basis. Let's bear in mind again, a liberal democracy, multi-party, 20% of Israelis are Israeli Arabs with voting rights. There are Israeli Arabs in the Knesset, the parliament. So these are matters, these are always very difficult issues for democracies. We saw this in World War II, where democracies like Australia, like the US, like Canada, like Britain, dealt with the totalitarianism that had taken hold in Germany and Japan, and that involved very difficult ethical choices, but it was very clear that what was done there was the right thing to do. Very similar ethical issues arise here.
Indeed. Paul Fletcher, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.